Hi everyone, this is Blake Anderson and I'm here in Toronto, Ontario. I'm a registered social worker with over 14 years of collective experience and I have 5 years as a therapist. In this video, I'm going to walk through aspects of growing up in a dysfunctional family system, particularly for the scapegoat, and just notions of how the family often, particularly the narcissistic parents, and it could be also the siblings, doing their best to try to keep the scapegoat both diminishing themselves and doubting themselves. I want to particularly talk about how when one grows up and they have achieved certain things in their life and certain tangible goals have been accomplished, or there's just certain talents that they have, it could be the case that when they go back to the family of origin, let's say for holidays or just for a family gathering, things that are objectively successful in life could be they have maybe a good career, or let's say they're good at a sport and they've done something, maybe won a medal or of some sort. But things that objectively are measurable and things that other people will congratulate them on, but how there can be a complete disconnect when going to the family of origin that is dysfunctional, and how they will often play down those accomplishments as you were to submit to the role of the scapegoat. So the family, particularly the narcissistic parent, and it could be also a sibling, they don't want you to have a sense of pride or a sense of feeling like you're better than, or not even better than, but just feeling like you're accomplished in some area. Because to them, it's seen as a threat. It's seen as something that perhaps they are jealous of. It could be the case that the parent also sees value in it. In terms of the scapegoating and the golden child role, these roles can also fluctuate over time. So it's not always the case that it's just entirely one aspect of the family assigning you this role. It could be the case that on average you are more likely to be defined in a certain way in terms of being the scapegoat. But it also could be the case that at times in the past, your family, particularly the parents, have seen you in a more golden child role. So it could be the case that maybe you've graduated or got a new job or have some aspect in which you are shining in the family, and maybe it reflects, at least according to the narcissistic parent, it reflects good on them. So they maybe have more of a sense of putting praise on you. But this is all done in a way that it's more serving their own needs and not really to do with the actual accomplishment. So they're not necessarily proud of you for your own sake, but more to do about how it reflects on them. But in that process, it could be the case that you objectively in the world, you're accomplished and maybe you're proud about certain things in your life. But when you go to the family of origin, it could be the case that, especially if there's one sibling that is very much competitive with you, so sees you as a threat. So because of your accomplishments, they really feel like they have to diminish you and put you down and minimize these accomplishments that a lot of people will praise you for or see that they're proud of you about. You might have friends and colleagues that encourage you and see these things as positives. But when you go back to the family of origin, particularly with a sibling that might maybe feel like they're competing for this golden child role, when you start getting praise from the parents, even though it's mostly superficial, then they see that as a threat because the family and the parents are giving you attention or narcissistic supply to some degree, or they're just basically proud of you, but mostly because it's reflecting on them as narcissistic parents. The sibling that's typically the golden child will see these talents or accomplishments as a threat. But you would think that a sibling, right, would want to see the best in you. And you can understand a sibling might have some jealousy. I think we all sometimes deal with jealousy, but it's a completely different kind of form of jealousy. It's this deep-seated resentment, or there's no sense of support for you as you would show to them. So there's a notion of pseudo mutuality. When they accomplish things or have certain talents, you'll praise them or give them a compliment. But for them, it's likely the case that they'll pick something out. Let's say you're a runner. They'll diminish your running, saying that's not a real sport. They'll find some way to diminish the accomplishment. You have a career, and they might put down your career and say, is it really that great? Or they might talk behind your back to get the parents and put like seeds in their mind that it's not as good as other people say it is, or something like this, right? So they find ways to try to clip your wings and to keep you diminished and try to get you back into the role of the scapegoat, and also probably planting seeds maybe in your own mind about and diminishing yourself so that you don't think you're as accomplished as perhaps the exterior world or in society they say you are. And so it's interesting, you see this dichotomy between society and the way that it measures it, but then the way the narcissistic family measures you. You might grow up and think, okay, the world, and I think I'm doing pretty well, but when you go back into the family of origin, they put you back into this 12, 14-year-old, this younger part of you. And so even though you've matured and objectively maybe achieved certain things in your life, they diminish you and try to put you back into this younger part of yourself. Maybe you have a professional career and maybe you're a manager and you have people that report to you, but the family or the parents want to not to acknowledge that this expertise. But it's tricky because it's likely the case that they know that you're maybe proud of these things or that you hold these credentials or this career. So they probably recognize the status. It's different with different parents, right? Some might overly praise, and so it's almost like because it shines good on them, they'll overly praise you and brag to your friends or to their friends and use your accomplishments to bolster their own ego. But then there could also be the parent which doesn't want you to be independent from the family or have your own sense of self-esteem. So they'll likely minimize you, and this could be just siblings putting you down, right? And so it's just that over time you say, this doesn't match up with reality. But if you're in a family that's more dysfunctional, it acts more as a cult, right? And so they're so insular and act as though they're independent from the world in some sense. They don't want the feedback from the world messing up their shared narrative of the family. It's likely the case because the narcissistic parents split the kids into these roles, even as they become adults. When you go out of line with that splitting or those roles that were assigned, then it's likely the case that they feel uncomfortable and see you as threatening this shared narrative and the role that was assigned. But obviously this doesn't make sense over time because you grow up and become an adult, but they're treating you as though you're young and as like a teenager. And so I just wanted in this video to mention how this occurs and how the family tries to diminish you and clip your wings. Particularly, it could be with a sibling that is competing for this narcissistic supply from the parents. So maybe they're being groomed as being a smaller version of the narcissistic father or the narcissistic mother. And they see you as a threat in terms of getting attention from the parents. It's sad, right? Because at the end of the day, you just want to have a normal mutual relationship with your sibling, but yet they always seem to be attacking you and jealous and resentful towards you. And the tricky part is, how do you deal with that? I think if you're having contact, it's probably limiting those contacts with that sibling, understanding that they're toxic and not good for you. This is probably after many times where you've tried to communicate and you've maybe say to them like, look, I don't know why you seem to want to put me down. So you might call them out on it, but it's typically the case that they don't, because it's dysfunctional. The family, especially because they put you in the scapegoating role, they'll probably dismiss your comments and say, oh, I'm not doing that. They might dismiss it and think that you're exaggerating. So it's likely the case that many times you try to communicate with them. So in that level, it's probably best just to limit contact. Maybe it's, let's say you're still talking with them. So you might just lower the communications. Maybe you can only do a 30-minute conversation with them. Think about Lindsay Gibson's work in terms of the adult children of emotionally immature parents. Then maybe you just discuss one emotion at a time or one issue at a time, and you lower your expectations. But you also set boundaries. You say, I don't want you putting me down about this. But it's probably the case that they're not going to listen to that. Who knows? But so there's many ways to navigate this. But it's just, I wanted this video just talk about how the narcissistic family likely wants to put you in your place in terms of the role self. And they likely don't want you having healthy self-esteem. So they don't want you outsourcing your reality testing to the exterior world, but they rather want it to be outsourced to them as the narcissistic parents. So in this video, I covered different aspects of this dynamic. Thanks and have a great day.